Hello, good evening. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, coming to you from our studios here at Adesawe, Kanda, Accra. Coming up tonight, still hot in the oven, Speaker Parliamentary calls Parliament from recess to consider urgent parliamentary business. We'll be telling you which business the Speaker is referring to. Also coming up, scientists find alarming levels of metals in Volta River and its tributaries, which they attribute to Galamsey activities. We will bring you the scary details of their findings. And later in the program, President Mahama's shake-up within the corridors of national security meets mixed reactions. We'll tell you why. Details of these and more in the next hour. Before we get into it, my colleague Nura Mohammed is here with the latest in the news summaries. Nura, what do we have?
Thank you, Grace. First in the news summaries, Chairman of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Eric Nyamiche, has recounted his personal experiences with armed robbery and other security challenges during his 6-year stay in South Africa. Apostle Nyamiche said he was accosted by armed robbers on 2 occasions while living in the country and experienced near death during the last attack. He made the disclosure when the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, paid a courtesy call on him at the headquarters of the Church of Pentecost at La in Accra. Meanwhile, 1 person has died and 5 others sustained injuries following a road crash at Asubo on the Accra-Kumasi Highway. The accident occurred on Tuesday, August 11, 2026, when a Kia Rhino collided with a manned diesel truck. Now, firefighters from the Suhum Municipal Fire Station responded to the incident and rescued the person who was trapped in the Kia Rhino. Also in the summaries, engineers and planners, ENP, the wholly Ghanaian-owned company operating the Damang mine, has created employment opportunities for nearly 400 people barely 4 months after taking over the operation. Now, the early gains are emerging as one of the clearest indications yet of how greater Ghanaian ownership and management of the country's mineral resources can translate into tangible economic opportunities for citizens, particularly communities that have hosted mining operations for decades. Also, Samuel Atachia, lead counsel for former National Signals Bureau Director Kwabna Edubwahine and his wife Angela J. Boateng, has said he will not violate the legal vacation practice due to what he termed as the pleasure of the Chief Justice. Atachia on Tuesday, August 11, was not in court despite the Chief Justice's directive for the court to proceed with the trial of Kwabna Edubwahine and his wife during legal vacation. And finally, the Cybersecurity Authority, CSE, has fined the Office of the Registrar of Companies, ORC, and Purple Line Solutions Limited a combined 360,000 Ghana cedis for cybersecurity non-compliance. Now, the authority says the ORC failed to comply with 2 directives requiring it to engage a Tier 1 licensed cybersecurity service provider to strengthen the security of its critical information infrastructure. That's it for summaries. Back to you, Grace.
Nura, thank you for bringing us the news summaries. My colleague Nura Mohammed with the news summaries. Now, this is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's get into the meat of the bulletin tonight. And Ghana could be forced to import water if the pollution of its rivers and other water bodies continue unchecked. That is the caution coming from the Groundwater Division of the CSIR Water Research Institute. Scary, isn't it? Well, according to the Institute, about 60% of Ghana's individual water bodies are showing signs of contamination, with pollution increasingly affecting the country's major river basins. The contamination is primarily through the presence of hard metals like cyanide and mercury from illegal mining or Galamsey. The situation poses a serious threat to Ghana's long-term water security and requires urgent intervention. What makes it more scary is the fact that even the Volta Basin, which was initially believed to have been relatively spared from the pollution affecting other parts of the country, is now also experiencing contamination. Well, my colleague Wisdom Safo, as always, from the Research and Data Desk, is joining me. Wisdom, this is coming in as very scary. Talk to us the key findings of this report.
So Grace, if you have followed the illegal mining conversation, right, our only pride in terms of the water that has been untouched by the activities of Galamsey is the Volta River. And the news or the reports that is reaching us paints a very scary picture, because almost all our rivers are destroyed or largely affected by illegal mining activities. So, per the CSIR report, they tested 26 water sources across the Volta River system, right? So 17 from the main Volta River, which constitutes about 65%, and 9 from its tributaries. You know what a tributary is? If a major river is flowing into a smaller river flowing into a major,
which they meet.
That's it.
I know my social studies.
Okay, that's right. And the researchers they tested for the pH, which is the power of hydrogen, the turbidity levels, the nutrients, the heavy metal components against the Ghana and the WHO standard. And Grace, I'll take you through the details, and it's very, very scary. So they look at communities such as the Nangodi, the Toko, the Chirepong, the Nipanikro, and the Nangruma communities. And the first thing
This
they
should be
tested
communities up north, right,
around the white Volta and the black Volta basin, right? They first tested for water clarity, and water clarity they are looking for turbidity, right? Before we understand this, let's know the measurement, the unit of measurement for the turbidity. They use the NTU, which basically measured how cloudy or muddy the water is. Because some of the water, they may contain particles or silt and what have you. The Ghana standard is 5 NTU.
That's the accepted
That is the accepted
level.
standard. That's 5 NTU. But the average that was recorded was 432 NTU. You are surprised. 432.
As against 5.
So you know where we're heading. And the highest even recorded was not even 400. The 432 was the average. Average means when they summed everything and divided, that was around 432. But the highest was 2,465 NTUs. The NTU, the full meaning is Nepolometric Turbidity Unit. 2,000 against 5. That's like 500, almost 500 times the required,
accepted level. Yeah.
Then they tested for another metal, which is the cadmium. Okay, and that was the biggest red flag. For cadmium, our limit is 0.003 mg. The mg means milligrams per liter, right? But the average that was recorded was 1.5 mg per liter. That's almost like 200 or close to 2,000 times
the accepted level
is required.
Exactly.
And that's very serious. The highest was even 11.6 mg per liter. So in the reading, we are recording somewhere around 3,867 times the permissible limit, which is very, very dangerous. Look at the numbers that we are mentioning. 3,000 times, 2,000 times the required limit. Then they look at other contaminants like lead, chromium, and cyanide. So the maximum level, our required level, was around 0.01 for lead, but they recorded a maximum of 1.7 mg per liter, which is also about 170 times the required limit. For chromium, they recorded 1.4 mg per liter, which is against 0.05. That's 28 times what is required.
Right.
And for cyanide, they recorded 1.2 mg per liter against 0.07, which is also 17 times. Now let's move straight to where the problem is worse, where we are facing the most challenges in terms of contamination with metals and turbidity. Around the upper and middle Volta tributaries is where we are recording the most
highest
contamination. Now, we asked the community members that, what do you think is the cause of the contamination? And this are their responses. About 59% on average attributed the pollution to illegal or artisanal mining. 59%. If you take 59%, means if you take 10 people, about 6 of them are saying that the reason why we are facing these challenges is illegal mining.
Right.
Now for deforestation, about 17.5 of them, and agricultural runoff. Other people are also saying waste disposal as well. We are actually running a waste conversation this week. The research desk, we are looking at waste. So this waste conversation also fits into this report. And they also attributed some to domestic water waste. But the most shocking aspect of the whole conversation is the dependence on the people in terms of their drinking water. Their
Right.
source of water.
Let's inform our listeners that we have Zita Abuntori, a lead research scientist and part of the team that's published this report online. We'll be talking to her shortly when you wrap up the details of the report.
I'm left with just 3 points.
Right.
So they depend where they get their water from. 43.9 get their water from boreholes. I mean, the major communities around that area, about 43.9% get their drinking water from boreholes, or their major water from boreholes. Sachet water, 21.8, streams 4.3, and the Volta River 4%. But there's a reverse effect. If you are getting your water from boreholes, how are boreholes drilled? They are around the same area.
Exactly,
so
from the
some
ground,
of the water,
the chemicals move into these areas and you go and dig a borehole there.
The aquifer.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Right. Let's talk to Zita now and then we'll wrap up with you. Madam, thank you for your time tonight on the bulletin. We've been listening to my colleague, Wisdom, who has parts of the reports. But from the horse's own mouth, how devastating are the findings from the reports of what you found while on the ground?
Okay. Thank you, Tributaries. The fact is that, because of it has been established from our research round, Galamsey is actually happening in the Upper East, Savannah, Northeast, and some parts of Upper West, and the Bono East thereabout. So these were scouted for, and then we conducted the research with the various tributaries that flow into the white, the black Volta, and then the main confluence going down all the way to Ada. So the research covered all the way from the top, from Upper East down to the coast, to see how possibly heavy metals in the river, the Volta River system, and to see where these tributaries are linking into the Volta, which were the major interest areas that you see in our report. So just as you said, yes, there are contaminants, which is the heavy metals that were detected in the black and the white Volta aspect of the Volta River system. That is the sad news. But it tells us that, yes, Galamsey activity is gradually touching almost every part of our waters now, and we need to wake up to it so that we don't destroy everything, and then we will now be handicapped. Yeah.
Zita, if we were to be in a doctor's appointment and you were diagnosing us of a Galamsey disease or illness that is almost taking over our lives, we say that, doctor, how many days do I have to live? How many months do we have to live? If you want to look at this from that perspective, how many days, how soon should Ghanaians be putting their hands on deck to find a solution to this?
Yes, I think this should be a turning point. Just now we have to act. Everyone has to begin to look at the monetary gains. We put that aside, and we look at the Volta River system as a critical natural resource that we should not let it get to the level of how the South has been so bad. Because the southern sector rivers didn't just get there right now. They started years back, and then gradually became so much heavy to the extent that we are now crying about. The water system has not reached to the level of the southern, but this is the beginning. So we have to cry out loud and say, no, we don't want to get to the level of what we are experiencing that is now like a crying point, if I can put it that way. So the Volta is a major river that a lot of people are depending on without treatment. So like I was saying, we benchmark it with the potable water thresholds of Ghana standard, and that's with the WHO, because people are drinking directly from the river.
Yes.
Okay. So despite that, yes, the water is still quite good, not to the bad extent of the south. But it means that if we don't stop the issues of Galamsey now in the upper and the middle belt of the Volta, gradually we are getting there. The good side of it is that the tributaries has sedimentations and vegetative and the expansive nature of the Volta going towards the confluence down to the estuary, which is the Adan area. There's a lot of dilution and the large effect. So you notice that there is no even below detection limit for the heavy metals on that side.
Okay.
But you see that from the black and the white water, especially with the various places that are the tributaries linking to the black and the white, you could see that obviously that Galamsey activities is gradually increasing these contaminants. So this is what happens. When these elements, they are natural in the system, in the earth. So once Galamsey unearth them and crush them, they are liberated. And now, once water do not have boundaries and there is runoff, it washes them into the river system. So that's
Zita,
how it works.
so let's make it easier for our listeners. Let's look at this regionally. We've been mentioning the white Volta and the black Volta and all. In which regions do we find these rivers and also with their levels of contamination?
Okay, so when we look at the black Volta Strait, we are looking at Charco. That's in the Doli district area. That's the black Volta bordering with the Côte d'Ivoire. Then as you go down towards the Chache, Bole, Bamboy area, that's towards the Bunu east side, that's through the black Volta. That flows all the way to Bupe. So that is the black Volta link. Then when we come to the white Volta, and there are spots of illegal mining happening around some of the tributaries. And that is where the runoff flow effect into the main black Volta is. You see that. And then we come to the side of the white. The white is also emanating from Burkina Faso into Ghana. And so the mining spots in Upper East with its various tributaries also running into the white water. That is where the effect is. You see that. And then when you come to the northeast, where we have mining happening at Nanguma, you see, so, and those are also linking to the white Volta, where the Sicily Klupon River joins the flow from Palugu, Kwesinkwe, coming down to Yape, and that also goes down to join at the confluence around the Kitek Krachi. You see that. So the white Volta, the black virtually join, and everything slows down. So anything happening around the river basins, virtually as water flows, it carries everything along.
If you look at the Nadoli Kaleo area, you don't see a lot of Galamsey going on. What accounts for the high levels of the metals even in these areas where you don't see Galamsey?
Okay, so like I was saying, the levels are there, and these levels, geologically, these elements are in the earth. Okay, and so once there's an activity that liberates them, and there is runoff and wash down, it goes with the water. So that's how the pollution happens. So it's about the liberation of these elements in the soil as you crash, anyhow, just in the environment.
Right.
So they will find their way into the water bodies as it rains.
Right.
So you may not find it direct washing like in the south, but you will find the runoff effect into the Volta, the river system like that. That's how it is.
Right. And the report, you've been talking about the fact that we need to start working on this as soon as possible. What are the recommendations you make in the report?
I would recommend that government should not give up the fight. Government should still sit up and fight so that we don't lose it all. And government should the government should invest to capacitate the various stakeholders so that they will be able to fight this issue, that it will not go out of hand. But one of the major things that also came out from the socio-economic interaction when we were doing the survey is that when we stop Galamsey, what will we eat? The alternative. So one of the things that played a key role if Galamsey has to stop, government has to look at is alternative livelihood, alternative jobs. factories and industry, so that the youth, which was classified as the largest group in our survey report, 18 to 35, a vibrant age group, they'll be able to have something else to do. Because most of the time they will tell you, what will we do when we stop?
Stop Galamsey.
So people are crying out for an alternative to live. Okay, so it has to be looked at integratedly and holistically, so that we don't sack them today with military effort and the following day they will go back. And another thing that maybe we have to look at it as a critical, national security issue for the Volta River system from up to down, so that we can really protect it and then increase the infrastructure for research, so that more, assessments can be continuous and we'll be able to ascertain what's going on in the water, especially the Volta River system.
Right. Yeah. Zita, thank you for your time on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Zita Abuntore is a lead research scientist and part of the team that published this report from the CSIR. Let me let you go, but we've been talking about the white and black Volta. Why is it so important for us to protect this water body? Briefly for me.
Grace, if you have looked through human civilization, most of our civilization has been built around water. If you look at the demography and the geography of Ghana, the northern hemisphere is a very dry place, such that most farm irrigation depend heavily on the black and the white Volta. So if it becomes contaminated, it doesn't only affect the drinking aspect of things, but the farming and agricultural aspect of things, because you realize that animals will be drinking from it, our plants will be watered by that same water. And you know the resultant effect of that as well. So that's why it is very important. And there's one thing that the reports mentioned, which had to do with diseases, health concerns. And you realize that about 69.6% of the residents or the respondents, that's 7 in 10, they were complaining about skin rashes.
Right.
About 7 in all the people, in 10 people that were sampled, were reporting skin rashes as a health concern. So it is a health concern, it's about the agric aspect of things, and it's about the economic and socio-agricultural components of things as well.
Okay, Wise, thank you for your time, as always, on the bulletin. Wisdom Safo, he is with our research and data desk here at Media General, talking to us about the devastating effects of illegal mining, transcending through the water we drink, the food we eat, and all that it's got to do with. So the caution from the CSIR is that Ghana needs to take action. If not, we might be importing water into the country because of the devastation caused by illegal mining, because 60% of our individual water bodies are showing signs of contamination, with pollution increasingly affecting the country's major river basins. Well, let's move away from Galamsey and go to Parliament, because a release coming in from the office of the Speaker says he has recalled the House back from recess. Our man in Parliament is here, Christian Yale. Christian, you have all the details. Talk to us about this release coming from the office of the Speaker.
All right, Grace. So what we know is that Parliament has been on recess for at least a little over a week, and the earliest we were expecting the House to be back would have been somewhere in October, where the House will be back to consider primarily the budget for 2027, which will be the key item when the House returns. But we've just received this, notice from the Speaker, and if I should just read verbatim, the title is Recall of Parliament. In exercise of the power conferred on the Speaker of Parliament by Order 58.4 of the Standing Orders of the Parliament of Ghana, I, Alban Suma Nakinsford Bagbin, the Speaker of Parliament, do hereby direct that Parliament shall, notwithstanding anything to the contrary, be recalled from recess to sit on Monday at 12 noon of the 24th to Friday, the 28th day of August 2026 at Parliament House, Accra, to consider urgent parliamentary business. What this means is that by next 2 weeks, we should have Parliament come to sit within this period for a week. Now, ordinarily, Parliament does not sit on Mondays. Parliament sits from Tuesdays to Fridays. What we know is that when the House is about to go on recess, for instance, they add Mondays and they can even add Saturdays. Right. Now, let's look at the bait of this notice, which talks about urgent parliamentary business. Grace, we know.
I was going to ask you what could be so urgent that the Speaker has to recall the House. I mean, in this era where we're talking about legal vacations and parliamentary recess and all of that, people are asking whether we should go to court or not. Why is Parliament also going back?
Yes. So that makes it interesting, really, Grace, because then we know this week, or even last week, we had a president make a reshuffle in his ministers. Right. Now, as part of that, we know that there are 2 MPs. One, the majority leader, Mahama who's been appointed as minister designate for the Ministry of Chieftaincy, Local Government and Religious Affairs.
Right.
Now there is MP for Kwale Kulote, Dr. Zaneto Ajman-Rawlings, who's been appointed minister designate for, Environment, Science and Technology. Now, there were other 2 ministers who were reassigned. So you have the former minister for Works and Housing reassigned as Defense, and then you have the former minister for Chieftaincy now reassigned to Works and Housing. Now, those 2 people who've been reassigned, per what the Constitution says, will take their next role immediately. Now, the other 2, the majority leader
earlier been vetted.
Been vetted already.
Vetted
exactly.
Again.
Now, where the importance comes in is the other 2 who are now assigned the designate roles. So you have the majority leader now minister designate, the MP for Kwale Kulote now minister designate. They need to be vetted. Now, before the vetting would happen, the Speaker would have to read the communication from the president to the House that these are the people that the president has delegated to fill these roles. Now, after he's read, he would then refer the nominations to the appointment committee. For the appointment committee to now consider, and then the appointment committee will schedule date for their vetting. Now, per what we are seeing, also because they are going to sit for almost an entire week, it means that it is going to be very urgent, such that when the Speaker reads the communication on Monday and refers the nominees to the appointment committee, by Tuesday, we should have a date, which means that by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these 2 should have been vetted. Also, we know that earlier there were some nominees of the Supreme Court, some judges who were nominated to be at the Supreme Court as well. So this could also be a part of it. So largely, per my reading, this is the urgent parliamentary business that the Speaker talks about. Because if they do not convene, there is no way the vetting could happen. Again, and just to land on that, we know that there were a couple of bills that were shelved until next meeting. What it means is that if there is time, those bills could also be taken out. One of such bills is the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana Amendment Bill, which is seeking to remove the current restrictions on dual citizens.
Right.
Now, we know that already the Constitutional Review Committee has tabled some recommendations which government has adopted in the white paper which the Attorney General, spoke about a few days ago. And so that could be, because that was next in line to be considered on the bill's agenda. We also know that they were almost recalling the passage of the anti-LGBTQ bill to reconsider some clauses that could also be brought back on the table. So largely, this is the reason for why the Speaker has chosen to recall Parliament even before they will come back from recess.
Why can't all of these wait till October when the MPs come back?
I mean, it is important to ask, but also the reading and the understanding is that once you have 2 ministers leaving their original roles to a different ministry, you cannot leave the 2 ministries vacant. Though technically you have the chief directors of those ministries who are largely in charge. It is not even more about the ministers. The chief directors are the ones who are the technical people who know the day-to-day runnings of the ministries. Right. But you need a leader. You know that the minority, for instance, over the period when we did not have the substantive defense minister, we're calling for a substantive defense minister. Now you have one. Now he leaves one ministry vacant. So you need someone who would then go to take over. So we cannot wait for about a month or 2 months before Parliament comes back for all of these processes to resume. So I recall that I think yesterday also there was a program that we had the Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim there is still in his role as the Minister for Chieftaincy, Local Government and Religious Affairs. It means that all of those, bureaucratic protocols and the rest have to be taken care of immediately.
Christian, it also means that your break has also been shortened. You're going back.
Yeah, that is roadside because one of my legs was almost out on going on a leave, So it just means that in a way this will be altered. Yeah, maybe I may go for a week and come back to take care of this business, and I will. So
it means the house is sitting from Monday.
From Monday, next 2 weeks, Monday to the Friday.
At least you have this week and then
next
the rest
week
of the days and then next week.
Yes, exactly.
All the best. I don't wish to be in your shoes. Thank you so much for bringing us the details. Christian Yale, my colleague here, and also our man when it comes to parliamentary affairs, talking to us about that emergency recall by the Speaker of Parliament and why the MPs need to return to the House to consider what the Speaker describes as a urgent parliamentary business. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Talking about urgent business, you will need a national security front that projects strength and force. And that is the line the president is towing. Well, these are the words of some security space watchers on the recent shakeup at the National Security Front. President Mahama has approved new appointments and reassignments as part of a reorganization of the National Security Council Secretariat. The changes affect key positions in operations, intelligence, logistics, and special investigations and take immediate effect. A statement signed by spokesperson to the President, Minister, Government Communications, Felix Kwachofosu, MP, noted that these appointments and reassignments take immediate effect. The appointments are: 1. Major Retired General William Ayamdo, former Chief of Army Staff, is appointed Deputy National Security Coordinator in charge of operations. Mr. Yao Donko, former National Security Coordinator, is now appointed Director of Intelligence and Research at the Office of the National Security Advisor. Mr. Adamu Saka is now appointed Director of Logistics and Transport. Ms. Faustina Ifabwedi is appointed Officer in charge of the Human Security Department. DCOP retired Peter Indekugri is appointed Officer in charge of the Special Investigations Unit, and ACP Al-Hassan Osman is reassigned to the Ghana Police Service for further deployment. This reshuffle is coming just days after the president announced a new defense minister, and the move is already sparking conversations in the security corners. We have on the line Adib Sani from the Jatike Center for Human Security and Peace Building, as well as Richard Kumado, also a security analyst. Gentlemen, thank you for your time on the bulletin tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Right. Let me begin with Mr. Kumado. I listened to you earlier on a conversation you had with one of my colleagues on what this means for the presidency. But we also know it is coming just a few days after the defense minister was announced, just as I mentioned. Is anything about to happen that Ghanaians need to be on the lookout?
Definitely not. What we are doing is that we are showing strength, we are showing readiness, and we are showing preparedness, and we are showing that we are focused in order to deal with the multifaceted nature of the threat we face in the West Africa zone. We are in the West Africa zone. The threats keep on coming. They keep on evolving. And so you would need a national security that the background of the officers are very huge, and they are well prepared, and they know the terrain. So if you look at Ayamda, for instance, this is somebody who is an infantry person. He has been a Director General of Defense Intelligence. He has been the Chief of Army Staff. He has done it all. And in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 20s, he is a famous, popular name that this is somebody who has given it all. If you are also familiar with this COP retired Peter, this is somebody who has traveled the length and breadth of this country with over 30 years of experience. And this is a huge personality. And then you come to my former boss, Wafaya, we call him Yadoko. Yadoko is a huge personality. The longest serving director BNI from the days of Peter Namfori. Then he went into the National Security Secretariat to become the coordinator. He took over from Gabrolati. People are not wrong to say Lionel Messi is a god of football. And so you also not be wrong to say that when it comes to the security intelligence arena, globally, Yandofo is a god. And all of us have benefited from his experience, his teachings, his mentorship, and many of those ones. So the president deliberately put it away to showcase strength, to showcase power and energy. Having said that, security management is a continuous process. So this evening we are speaking, there's no problem. It could be the next 1 hour we have a problem. And they will need to move themselves together in readiness. So aside from appointing IGP Christian Teteyono Chaskipo to the BNI as directorship, Divine Selassie to Cybersecurity Authority, and Aaron Kano to Customs, and Basitelli to Immigration. I think this is one of the best appointments he has made so far, and I am so glad that finally we put ourselves together in facing the nature of the threats we face on a daily basis.
Right. Adib, let me bring you in on that tangent. There's a new defense minister, and then all of these new names are also coming in, although they are people who already work in this terrain. What should be the level of collaboration among them so that there's a smooth sail for them when it comes to the work that they do?
Well, I agree with my senior colleague, Mr. Kumado, to a very large extent. I mean, the caliber of persons brought together surely is indicative of the preventive mindset of the president, because one surest bet to ensuring the sanctity of the security of the state is to have the right people at the right place. Interagency collaboration is extremely key. That is why periodically there is a joint intelligence committee meeting made up of the various security heads, so they are able to in real time share information, and not just within themselves in Ghana, but even outside of the country. Because the truth, like my big brother indicated, I imagine by the day, for example, in the Sahel region, 50% of all global terrorist activities, attacks, happen in the Sahel region, according to the Global Terrorism Index. They are wreaking havoc in Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso, even Mali. Recently, the defense minister was killed in a suicide attack. So we want to ensure that there isn't a spillover in the country. But at the same time, we should also be mindful of the internal threats, because according to the Peace Council, there are well over 350 unresolved chieftaincy and land disputes. So in as much as we are worried of spillover of the threats from outside, we should also be very worried about the internal threats. Now we are even talking about piracy, especially in the Gulf of Guinea. So the security apparatus would have to be functional, and one of the best ways to get to or to achieve that is to have the right people at the helm of affairs.
Adib, let me stay with you a bit longer. I have a copy of your press release when the names were mentioned. You make a case about why the new leadership must give greater attention to organized crime, illicit financial flows, money laundering, illegal gold tracking, as well as the number of romance scams or online scams that we're seeing in the last few days. How should they be looking at this to make sure that at least we have a reduction in the numbers?
Well, organized crime is very sophisticated. My big brother, Richard Kumado, knows better because he has been within the intelligence space. They are mostly perpetrated by well-connected, deliberate individuals who are able to do a lot of these activities under the radar. Even though it looks economic in nature, they have serious ramifications for the security of the state. That is why the Justice Center for Human Security is conducting some fact-finding into the activities of certain individuals in Tudu who we can confirm with preliminary information are engaged in illegal, allegedly engaged in illegal buying of goods and smuggling through Togo to Dubai, and also counterfeiting and all that. And I'm particularly worried because we have a lot of these individuals changing money, engaged in the forex business. How well do we monitor them? The monies they make, what do they use it for? How sure are we that those monies don't end up in the kitty of the terrorists operating within the region? So it is imperative that we work assiduously to ensuring that we are able to break these criminal enterprises. When you enter almost every bank in Ghana, you see notices on terrorist financing and all that. But the question is, how far have we gone with respect to enforcing the statutes on terrorist financing and ensuring that these individuals don't have access to such funds?
Mr. Kumado, what should be the priority areas for you, even as these new officials take their place, even including the defense minister?
Let me continue from where my brother Adib left off. He has not been speaking for some time now, so you need to give him more time. He has been running away. Now that he's back, catch him up. Yeah. Let me continue from where he left off. We just signed a deal with Burkina Faso. You remember a spin-off from the issues we have with the tomato sellers.
Exactly.
We also have an envoy to the Sahel in the name of Gbavolate, who is a specialist when it comes to military defense and security operations, meaning that we are ticking the right boxes and doing it properly. For the defense minister, he just has to play within the national security infrastructure and make sure that he provides leadership and ensure the welfare of the soldiers are taken care of. Other than that, all issues about soldiers ends up at the desk of the Chief of Defense Staff. And the only time they need politicians is for political representation. Last week, Atufosin inaugurated a barracks. If Ajay has been confirmed, he would have done that. Then, once they get to the National Security Secretariat Council, once the council is meeting, the issues Adib raised are critical. You will have the cyber security officers in there. You will have the BNI. You will have the police. You will have the NITA people. You will have communication authority. And you will have all the persons who matter within. Once that side is done, Adib also mentioned something that most people are not aware exists within our national security sector. We call it the Intelligence Committee Perspectives. They have their own meeting and deal with some of these financial issues. We will need to ask ourselves, why is the financial intelligence sector a little bit bored? They will need to wake up to some of these issues. I'm happy to be the consultant for the Compliance Association of this country. When the FIC was set up, we did a good job and the results were clear. I think they are coming up. We are pushing them to come up more. And once they work with the banks as accountable institutions, and you have Yoko fighting very hard, we should be able to do something great for ourselves, and we'll be fine.
Mr. Kumado, gentlemen, as well as Adib Sani, thank you so much for talking to us. We know that they have just been mentioned. They'll be taking their positions very soon, and definitely we'll come back to this conversation even as time progresses. Thank you so much. We have been speaking with Adib Sani of Jatike Center for Human Security and Peace Building, as well as Richard Kumado, a security analyst. Now, there's breaking news coming in, and it says former Maslok CEO Sadina Tamaklo has been released from jail nearly 2 weeks after the Court of Appeal acquitted and discharged her. Sadina is home while the Attorney General appeals her acquittal and discharge. My colleague from court, Lord Edward Sare, is here. Lord, talk to us. What do we know? Where did we start from? Why is Sadina at home?
Right, Grace. You'd recall that talking about when this thing started, let's pick up from where, first of all, the Court of Appeal acquitted and discharged her. This was just last month, July 30, after Sadina had been tried and sentenced in absentia. She was given a 10-year sentence in April 2024. In May 2024, her lawyers appealed the sentence. She was eventually arrested in the United States, extradited back to the country to serve her sentence. Yeah. And then the Court of Appeal heard her appeal and gave the judgment.
Right.
So July 30, she was released from custody. Now the Attorney General indicated that that cannot be the case because the prosecution did a good job and she actually had a case for which reason she was convicted of the charges which were leveled against her, and so they're going to appeal that sentence. Now know this, the Court of Appeal had indicated that the prosecution failed to prove the ingredients of the charges that had been preferred against her, for which reason she was eventually acquitted and discharged. So in court today, the state prosecutors came to withdraw that application.
Why did they withdraw it, Lord?
So essentially, they've actually filed a repeat application to the Supreme Court. And so once they had escalated the matter to the Supreme Court, it was prudent that they withdraw what's
the ones here
at the Court of Appeal. That's the reason why they review what is at the Court of Appeal today. Now, the lawyers had indicated that they were already working on the processes to have her released. Now, earlier in the day, somewhere in the afternoon, we got wind that a judge had signed her release warrant after the incidents in the morning, being the Attorney General withdrawing the application to stay the execution of that order. Now, once that release warrant had been signed, it was taken or served on the prison officers in Nsawam. And so it was just a matter of time that once all the processes was done, Sedna will be released from custody. And so as we speak, indeed, Sedna, our sources tell us that Sedna has indeed been released from prison custody and she's been taken home to her family. And
this more like brings an end to the case until the state of education that has been applied for by the AG
heard and determined by the Apex Court. Because as it stands now, the Attorney General initially attempted to halt her release by filing that application at the Court of Appeal. Now, withdrawing it gave that leeway for her to be released. And in any case, she should have been released right after that decision by the Court of Appeal on July 30, because essentially she was acquitted and discharged. And so all that was left was for a release warrant to be taken to the prisons. Now, that took a while, for which reason she was in the prison custody despite the court orders from July 30 up until now. Now, after the release warrant having been signed, is the reason she has a green light to now be taken home. So we know there's a legal vacation and there's a lot of brouhaha around whether there should be cases to be sat on or otherwise. For example, today at the Court of Appeal, there had been a warrant which was issued by the Chief Justice for the Court of Appeal to sit on the case today, because essentially the higher courts are on legal vacation. And so it remains to be seen when, for example, the case at the Supreme Court will be heard, when the Chief Justice will again issue a warrant for that case to be heard at the Supreme Court, or rather wait till October. The vacation has ended.
There were also some other interesting details coming out from other cases in court today. Bring us up to speed.
Indeed, there was also the former NAFCO CEO Hanan Aludiba and his wife Seydou Wuni's case. Now, you recall that yesterday similar incidents happened regarding the former National Signals Bureau director. Well, today, lawyers of Hanan Aludiba and his wife, in the persons of Godfrey Badami, the former Attorney General, and then Augustine Obo, they were absent in court today. Now, when the court asked Hanan why his counsel were absent, he indicated that essentially, because Hanan and his wife have different lawyers, they spoke for themselves. So Hanan responded that Godfrey Badami was absent in court because he had taken ill and was on admission in the hospital. He indicated that he took ill after Dami had filed that petition to the Chief Justice, praying the Chief Justice to halt the sitting until, because he didn't want to sit through the legal vacation. Now, he indicated that he's on admission. And then his wife also indicated that his counsel, Augustine Obo, was also unwell, for which reason he was also absent in court. And then normally, Godfrey Badami comes with another lawyer, his second in command, Richard Jimbibi. He was also absent. And for him, Hanan indicated that he was out of Accra marking scripts of students of the Ghana School of Law. We recall that they had written an exam, and so he was part of those marking their scripts, and that was the reason why he was absent. But the judge indicated that Godfrey Badami is not someone who is new to the courts. He's very experienced in it, and so if he was sick, he should have presented an excuse duty or a medical document. Now, for the Deputy Attorney General, he was indicating that he doesn't really believe Godfrey Badami was unwell to begin with, because at the last adjourned, Godfrey Badami had indicated that he would not be conducting the trial during the legal vacation, for which reason he had filed the petition to the Attorney General, to the Chief Justice. So it cannot be the case that him being unwell is the reason he's absent. Now, Hanan also indicated that he had gotten a copy from his lawyers of an application to stay proceedings pending the appeal. And Grace, you recall that Godfrey Bodame had filed an application for all the charges leveled against Hanan to be struck out, but this was dismissed by the High Court, and so they have appealed that decision. Now, pending the hearing and dissemination of that appeal, they filed a stay of proceedings, and so Hanan was pleading with the courts for a long adjournment, saying that they should be back in October 19th to be precise, so that by that time, Godfrey Bodame will be well and fit, and then he can move that motion to stay the proceedings. The judge indicated that that cannot be the case. He's going to give a short adjournment. So Godfrey Bodame and August Nobo, and essentially the defense lawyer, they should be in court by August 17 to come and move their motion for still proceedings, and then
it looks like August 17 will be a very busy day for us. We'll be expecting Atachia in court, though he says he's not showing up, and then this team is also expected in court. Lord.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how August 17 pans out. But the breaking news is that Sedina Tamaklu, former Maslok CEO, has been released. She's gone home to her family, just as our court correspondent, Lord Edu Asare, is telling us. Lord, thank you for the updates. I mean, legal vacation. Are you on vacation or not?
This matter, okay.
Lord, thank you. I'll see you backstage. Yeah. Lord Edward, sorry, my colleague in the newsroom and also our correspondent when it comes to issues relating to the courts and all that you need to know. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hamwa Ajiman. Oreku Ampofo is standing by to bring us the latest in the world of sports. Don't go away.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and let's start off with our first story where CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe says that Gianni Infantino's future should be decided in the next FIFA elections. Motsepe's comments comes ahead of today's UEFA Super Cup final between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa, and he has been speaking to the media on that as well.
But you've got to be careful. You've got to be very careful. You know, there are elections taking place next year. Shouldn't we allow that process to continue and let the 211 members decide? I mean, there are many times when I want the candidate to win, doesn't win. Whoever wins, I've got to support you. So, you know, let's. I get too many telephone calls from too many member associations worldwide. And what I like is to focus on the unity, the cooperation. How do we continue to develop and grow football in the midst of the challenges we have? Deal with those challenges. We will resolve them and we'll move on. Let the people decide. If there are candidates who want to stand against it,
And so that was Dr. Patrice Motsepe speaking there ahead of the game between Paris Saint-Germain and then Aston Villa, which will be taking place much later tonight. Remember, it's the UEFA Super Cup, and so the winner of the Champions League facing the winner of the Europa League, and that is Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa, respectively. However, let's do some more here and come back to Ghana, where the Deputy Director General for the National Sports Authority, Yawan Pofoankra, has told the Babayara Sports Facility on Wednesday. Now, his visit comes with just weeks to the start of the 2026-2027 Ghana Premier League season. This report summarizes how the experience went.
The NSA boss toured the facility today to evaluate the progress on the pitch following viral social media footage on the ongoing work. Speaking after the tour, Ampofo Ankara expressed satisfaction, stating the playing surface should be ready in time for the new domestic season.
It will be ready. I think we're looking at 4 weeks from now. We've seen the work that has been done, and work continues to be done. The sprinklers are now working. We have drones and high-tech equipment that NSA would have to procure and ensure that we are abreast with international standards when it comes to the maintenance of our pitches and our facilities. So yeah, we will be ready when the league kicks off.
The venue recently lost its CAF Category A status for international matches due to pitch and facility standard deficiencies. However, the NSA chief is confident that these upgrades will meet required standards to bring major international fixtures back to Kumasi.
The new standards is what we're chasing to arrive at and to be abreast with. So we're doing all our best. Clearly, it's an improvement from 6 months ago or 1 year ago.
With the Ghana Premier League season fast approaching, today's inspection provides optimism that the iconic stadium will soon reopen its doors to domestic football and eventually the international stage.
Now, away from that to some cycling, where ahead of the 6th edition of the 2026 Tour du Ghana, Minister for Sports and Recreation, Honorable Kofi Adams, has announced that monies paid as part of sponsorship for the event are tax deductible. And he said this during the launch of the competition, which takes place on August 28th.
The rebates for corporate sponsors. These have been clearly announced by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. His finance minister has also repeated it, that sports is good cause, and therefore any funding to sports is tax deductible. It means that for any amount that you spend sponsoring any sport activity, that you are issued with a certificate, before you are taxed, that amount is deducted before the tax. So this already exists.
And so that was Honorable Kofi Adams, who is the Minister for Sports and Recreation, speaking there. Before we go, Lionel Messi says that he's unsure how much longer he will continue to play football, as he posted an emotional tribute after his father's passing. Messi's father, Hockey, was 68 years when he died last week following a long-term illness. And that's how we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition on TFM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
That was my colleague Oreku Ampa for bringing us the latest in the world of sports. And that will be all for Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Thank you for spending the last 60 minutes with us. My name is Grace Hamwa Ajuman. You can log on to 3news.com and get some more stories. But just so if you haven't heard, the latest breaking news coming in say that the former Maslok CEO, Sadina Tamaklo, has been released from prison and has been given over to her family. Now, this is coming some few weeks after she was sentenced, but we know that she was also later acquitted and discharged, and so she is going home. We have a lot more on this on our website, 3news.com. Log on and also look at what else is trending. Many thanks for joining us, and good evening.
three regions. From Accra through Kwao to Kumasi, hundreds of kilometers of rhythm